Hey guys, it's Jake here with eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at and I'm going to show you how to install the Curt Four-Pole Wiring Harness on your 2021 Genesis GV80. Now the biggest reason why you would want to install a 4-pole wiring harness on your vehicle is because you want to pull a trailer that has a 4-pole on it. This wiring harness is going to allow you to get the 4-pole function safely to your vehicle or to your trailer. It does that by using a converter box, which is going to help with backfeed coming from the trailer so it doesn't affect your vehicle lights, and then same for the vehicle going to the trailer. If you have any harmful signals trying to travel either way, that converter box is going to help to protect against that. The 4-pole functions are going to be your stop and turn lights and your tail lights. Now, one thing that does not come in your kit, but I would highly recommend, is a wiring bracket. On this specific vehicle, it might be a little difficult to get the wiring bracket mounted, but it'll give a nice clean factory look, so your wiring is not hanging there. If you're not going to be towing a trailer all that often, you can just take the dust cover that will come with the kit, loop it around the safety chain loop, and then it's right there whenever you need it. These hold up very well. I know people have been using them for years. If you're not going to use your trailer wiring, but maybe once or twice a year, I would recommend running the wiring out of the rear hatch of your vehicle. Keep the wire away from the latching mechanism, and then you just close the rear door on it, and your seals will help to protect that wire from any abrasions. That is going to be just as clean a look as this is, except that you're going to be able to coil up the wire and tuck it away into a side compartment when you're not using it. With that being said, let's go ahead and take our vehicle inside and show you how we got it installed. To begin our installation, we'll need to start by popping these panels off that are covering our hardware. Let's take a trim panel tool, or you can take a screwdriver with like a shop towel or a small towel of some sort on it. Pop these off, set them to the side, and this is going to reveal two screws. It's either a 10 millimeter or a Phillips head. Pull those out. We'll do the same thing to the passenger side taillight. Then we'll take our taillight housing and pull straight out. We'll have a connector here that we'll need to disconnect. We'll do the same thing on the passenger side. Next thing you want to do is you want to test out your wires. You can use a probe, a light tester, to be able to test the frequency coming through. We found that our green wire with the black stripe is our running light signal, and the blue wire with our orange stripe is our turn signal. And on the passenger side, the orange wire is going to be our turn signal. Now we're going to take some alcohol on a towel and prep our area to get ready to stick our converter box to the side. If it's got any dirt on the wall of our vehicle here, it's not going to stick very well. So we cleaned it off. Now we can make our connections and then get our converter box stuck. And we'll take our yellow wire. We're going to tie that in with our blue and orange striped wire. We'll take these two wires. I like to twist them together, and then we're probably going to have too much excess there. Snip off the excess and slide it in our butt connector. I highly recommend using heat shrink butt connectors to make these connections because they are behind the taillight, so they are sort of protected, but they are still outside. We'll take our brown wire, twist it in with our green wire. That'll complete that connection. Give them a little tug to make sure they're safe and secure. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tie our red wire in with our ground. So we'll cut that back. Strip both ends back. And run our red wire in with our white, and then use a butt connector to reattach them. Now we'll take our red and white wire, twist them together. Cut off the excess, and then slide on the remaining white wire. Now we'll take the self-tapping screw that comes on our kit and ground our ground wire to the vehicle. Before we get our converter box stuck inside behind our rear fascia here, we're going to extend the green wire to the passenger side, but the wire is not going to be long enough. You can do the quick math and see that from the converter box being mounted here, going underneath our vehicle and coming up to the taillights, it's not going to be long enough. So we're going to take a jumper wire. We've got about 6 feet on here. That is going to be more than enough. And then we're going to take our black wire and tie it in with the black wire on the converter box, run it down, and it will come up through our grommet and go to our battery. Now you want to use a heat source and heat shrink all your butt connectors. Now something extra I like to do is I like to wrap the wires in electrical tape just to give them a little bit better protection for when we push them down in behind this bumper. But we'll push them down and make sure all your wires are out of the way of where that spot we cleared off earlier for our box to stick. We'll peel one side off, stick it to the back side of the box. Peel off the other side and stick it to the inside of our vehicle. Now I just took a zip tie and put it through the loop in the top of our converter box and tied it off to this factory wiring, just for the slight chance that, you know, many years down the road, if that adhesive on the back of that tape ever lets loose, that it doesn't fall down, it'll just hang on here. Now before we go under our vehicle and run the rest of our wires, we're going to come into our trunk area. We'll lift up our the storage door. We'll have 2 Phillips head screws right here and here that we need to remove. Pop this panel out. And then what we did was we took a piece of scrap wire we had, only about 2 feet will do. And you see that grommet down there? We just ran it down underneath our vehicle, and we're going to use this as a pull wire to pull our black wire up through, because we'll have to make a connection to the positive side of the battery. Now with our wires down underneath, we're going to go ahead and run them, and then we'll come back and show you how we did. So the way we ran our wiring is we came up, followed any factory wiring that we could. Our power wire, we went back here, looped it over this factory wiring, zip tied it off. I put this protective sleeve on it because it was touching the bottom of this frame, and we don't want that rubbing through the wire. Followed our existing hose lines back here, zip tied it back there, and then came out by our fish wire, taped it up to our fish wire, and we're ready to pull it up through that grommet. As for the our green wire that we used a jumper to get over, we came down similar to our 4-pole, ran them both. You can see, just tuck them up, and zip ties are definitely going to be your friend on this vehicle because you want to keep it away from this exhaust because it gets hot. Zip tied it here to this fastener, zip tied our 4-pole to the hitch. Green wire we kept going across, and then ran a fish wire down through our taillight housing and pulled our green wire up. And we can take our fish wire and carefully pull it up through our grommet. It's not a bad idea once you get it so far. Look underneath, make sure the coil is not getting tangled up, and then continue pulling. On our passenger side, we have our orange wire. There's no stripe on it. We'll tie in our green wire with it using those same heat shrink butt connectors. Now up inside the back of our car, we'll have a Fuse connector that comes in our kit, it will originally be connected to itself. You cut it in half, put a butt connector on one end and a ring terminal on the other. We'll get this connected. You want to be sure to leave the fuse out of it until we're ready to test it out. Put that on there, we'll heat shrink that down and we can make this connection. And we'll take our cover off, our battery. Now this kit is really nice to install in the back of our car here because we do have a battery back here. We got one up front too, but normally you have to run this power wire all the way up to the front of the car. So this is really convenient with it being back here. We'll slide it over one of our posts here, but we're going to use this one. Tighten that down using a 10mm socket. With everything connected, we can reinstall our taillights, put our fuse in, and test out the functioning of our trailer wiring. Now we can go through our basic functions of our 4-pole. We'll have our running lights, our brake lights, our left turn, and right turn. After you know that your taillights are working properly and the wiring is working properly, we can go ahead and button everything back up, and that'll do it for the installation.